Making Small Batch Chocolate, presented by West Hawaii Master Gardener Association. Selecting ripe cacao pods. Once the cacao pod has grown for about 6 months and the pod has turned to yellow or red, scrape the surface of the pod with your fingernail. When it is no longer green under the scraped surface, the pod is ripe. Fermenting the cacao. You can make small batch chocolate with 1 cacao pod, but it is easier with 3 or more. Cut the pod in half, being careful not to cut through the seeds. This is a properly cut cacao pod. Pull the seeds and mucilage out of the pod. Discard the stringy core. Add a small amount of regular baking yeast and mix well. Stir the pods and yeast with a long-handled spoon, packing down the pods as much as possible. Cover the jar with a couple layers of cheesecloth and secure. If the temperature is going to be less than 75 degrees Fahrenheit, place the jar on a heating pad set on low and covered with a towel. Stir every day. It will be ready when the aroma begins to change and the color of the nibs begins to darken. Usually it takes 3 to 5 days, depending on the amount of beans, temperature, and rate of fermentation. If you have an oven with a pilot light, you could set the jar inside the oven instead. Just be sure not to turn the oven on before removing the jar. Drying the cacao nibs. You can dry the nibs in a dehydrator or in the sun. If you dry them in the sun, you need to protect them from insects. This is cacao in a dehydrator, spaced so that they do not touch each other. Set the dehydrator at about 115 degrees Fahrenheit, not more. Stir the nibs once a day. Dehydrate until you can crack a shell by pressing it together with your fingers. Should take 3 to 4 days. At this point, you can store the properly dried cacao in an air and waterproof container for several weeks or even a couple of months. Baking the cacao. Spread out on a baking sheet. A liner will make clean up easier. Bake at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 to 25 minutes. The nibs will smell like brownies baking once they are close to done. Watch closely once they start to smell like brownies. Take out of the oven once the shell starts to turn brownish and puff up and begin to pop open. Shelling the cacao nibs. You can roll the nibs with a rolling pin to crack the shells, or you can crack them between your fingers. Carefully remove all the shell pieces, as the sharp edges will be unpleasant in your chocolate bar. Once the shells are removed, take the cacao outdoors and pour the nibs from one bowl to another, letting the chaff fly away. Do this repeatedly until the nibs are clean. Making the chocolate bar. A basic chocolate recipe. Ingredients include cacao, sugar, cacao butter, and vanilla extract. The amount of each ingredient will depend upon how much cacao you are going to use and how richly chocolate you want the bar to taste. You need to calculate the amount of each ingredient. The general formula is the amount of cacao that you are going to use in ounces divided by the percentage of cacao that you want in your bar expressed as a decimal. And that will equal the total weight of your bar. For example, if you have 8 ounces of cacao on hand and you want your chocolate bar to be 80% cacao, you divide 8 ounces of cacao by 0.80, and that will equal 10 ounce total weight of chocolate bar. First, you need to zero your scale. Put your cacao in the bowl and weigh the roasted cacao. Now you'll know how much cacao you have on hand. So in this instance, that was 8 ounces, and we're going to divide by 0.80 because we like 80% chocolate bars. And so 8 ounces divided by 0.8 will equal X amount, or the total amount of the chocolate bar you'll end up with. So 8 ounces divided by 0.8 is 10 ounces, will be the total amount of the chocolate bar we'll end up with. You need to know the total amount of the bar so you can calculate the amount of cacao butter and sugar to add to your cacao. To calculate the remaining ingredients, first let's talk about the cacao butter. You always add 10% cacao butter. For example, our example is 10 ounces on the total bar. So 10% times 10 ounces is 0.1 times 10 ounces, or 1 ounce of cacao butter. Then we'll also want to add sugar. So to calculate that, you take 10 ounces of the total chocolate bar that we're going to end up with, take away the 8 ounces that's going to be cacao, and then take away the 1 ounce of cacao butter, and that leaves you with 1 ounce left, and that will be how much sugar you will add. For the vanilla, a rule of thumb is for 1 to 3 cacao pods, add about a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. For 3 to 10 cacao pods, add about a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. But this will be by your taste, so experiment as you go along. Now you're ready to make the bar. Bring a saucepan with about 1 inch of water to a simmer. Set your heat-proof bowl with the cacao butter over the simmering water. Stir frequently. If you have a double boiler, of course you can use that for this step instead. Once melted, take the bowl off the simmering water and stir well to cool. Process the sugar until fine. You can use superfine sugar, but don't use 10x sugar. Put the cacao nibs in with the sugar and whirl till the mixture begins to clump. Add the cooled cacao butter. Process again until the mixture sticks together and starts to thicken. Add the vanilla extract. Use pure 100% extract, not imitation. It makes a big difference in the taste. We make our own vanilla extract, but you can use commercially available 100% vanilla extract. Stir again until the mixture begins to thicken. You will need a strong spoon to stir with. Take out about 1/3 the mixture and put into another bowl. Beat very well until it is difficult to stir. Recombine the 2 parts and stir very well. Pour the mixture onto a plate lined with plastic or wax paper. Shape the bar. With a knife, make a grid of serving size pieces. You may need to let the bar cool a while until the grid will remain on the bar. Enjoy the best chocolate bar in the world. This bar won't be as smooth as commercially available chocolate bars, but the taste will be fantastic and just how you like it. This slideshow was created by the West Hawaii Master Gardeners.